Alright, this is just a quick video going over how to navigate Godot. This is just because we have a lot of new people recently in the map making community in Lingo who don't necessarily know where any of the resources are or anything that we talk about. So if we tell them to change the material on something or to change the script on something, they're not totally clear how that's done. So over here is called the scene tree, and that's where everything in your thing will be laid out in terms of where it lies in the hierarchy. So everything that is in this map is somewhere here in the scene tree. If I click on the floor, you can see that the floor is a static body. Is a mesh instance with a static body that has a collision shape. If I click on this, I can't because it's part of the grid map. The grid map is where you're going to be doing most of your working, and I have a video about working in the grid map, so you really don't need anything like that. And for some reason, that tried to transform instead of rebuild my map here. Oh, that's because I have it in painting mode for the other thing I was working on. Okay, so your panels need to be under panels. I have a video about how to deal with saved panels. So saved panels will only work if they're under the panels node, in particular if they're grandchildren. You can go to the video for more. Everything else does not need to actually be under these organizational nodes, or they can have any organization that you want. So, instead of doors, I could have a thing saying map objects, and then a node from that saying doors, and a node from that saying warps, and a node. Or I can sort it by room, and I can say these are all the things that are in this room, and it contains doors and warps and other things. So it's not that strict, except for a few things, which are actually set in Lingo and not by Godot. Over here is what we call the inspector, and the inspector also comes with the node thing, which can also be used to examine what signals a node has and what groups it has, what groups it's in, rather. So the inspector is where you're going to be changing most things. So up here, script variables, we have the variables that come with the script that is attached to the thing. Then we have, going upwards, I should explain class inheritance a tiny bit. So Godot is primarily object-oriented, so everything inherits from a node. A spatial is everything 3D. So if I go down to the mesh instance here, we have a mesh instance, which inherits from geometry instance, which inherits from visual instance, which inherits from col instance, which inherits from spatial, which inherits from node. So everything that a node can do, we can do down here. Everything a spatial can do, we can do here. Everything a col instance can do, yada yada yada. And it goes up until the more specialized parts. So for a mesh instance, I can change the mesh here, and that'll be what it looks like. So I can click on, say, new capsule mesh. And now my floor is a small little capsule-shaped thing. Now, the collision is different. That is the static body. And the collision shape is what's providing that. Collision shape is still set to be a box shape that matches our previous one. So let's just change that mesh back. If I go under the mesh here, I can change its size without transforming the entire node and everything that's below it. I can flip faces, yada yada. I can change its material. Now that won't work here. I'll just change it to something real quick, like highlight dim material. You're seeing it's displaying orange up here, but it's not displaying orange here. That's because there's 3 places to set material. So I can set material here, and if I reset this, now it's going to reset to what's in the mesh. This is part of mesh instance, so it has a material here, and it can be anything I want. And I can also go down to geometry and make a material override, and that can also be anything I want. So that's going to be, there's 3 places to set materials is what I'm getting at. Now, you might have noticed I opened this up earlier. I can click on the drop-down menu, and that'll open this thing, which tells me what kind of automatic thing Godot is ready to put in this field. It'll give me some options for loading stuff, and also a copy-paste. I can click on this instead, and it'll open up a little tiny editor for that resource itself. Now, every resource is shared among everything that has that same resource. What that means is that if I make a duplicate floor, right now this has the same mesh in it. So if I do something to change this mesh, say by making it 1 instead of 2, both of these mesh instances will be changed. Now, if I make this unique, which makes a unique version of it, and also embeds it in the scene, then I can change just this one without changing this one. So that is one of the most important things to know when you're making maps for Lingo, because make unique is also how you pack resources in your map. As we go down here, this is a lot of stuff you won't necessarily need to know, except for, transformation, which is just basically where stuff is in the map. You'll want to usually use snap mode. I have mine set to increments of 0.5 right now. So if I put this back to origin and I hold down control and I move this, you'll notice it's only moving in 0.5 increments right now. So that's something you will want to set up for yourself and configure snap to decide how much it snaps and degree and scale and whatnot. Down in the node here is script. So you can make a new script here, or you can load existing scripts. I can also right click on a node here, and that will bring up a ton of options, including attach script, which I can use to make a new script, which is what it does by default. Or I can open up an existing script, and now it'll, try to load up that script for me on that node. Down here's the file manager. Whenever you are moving nodes within your Lingo repo, you should probably do it within Godot's file manager, because then Godot knows where it's been moved and it can update all the references to it. In general, you shouldn't be moving any of the default stuff, because Brenton has still compiled Lingo with the basic Lingo repo layout. That's why it's the basic Lingo repo. And anything that you move might cause a reference to change in one of your maps that causes your map to fail to load in the real Lingo. But if you're making a lot of custom stuff, like say I have a 4D here, I was searching for stairs, I see. If I have 4D here, you can see that my map, which is called 4D, has a lot of different nodes, a lot of different folders, and then fonts, materials, models, music, and sounds all inside of that. So I have, I have a lot of organization in here, and so I want to keep organizing it inside of this folder, inside of this file manager here, so that it syncs up with my actual project settings, and, I don't end up having to reset 500 doors. All right, once we get into a script, let's take a look at take a look at panel script. So you might be wondering how to make your own script. I do have 3 videos on that, and those are directed at people who don't know how to script at all yet. Because we did have a lot of people who were interested in making, simple scripts a while back, custom scripts. So let's open the script. First of all, I'm going to point out that this has a script here, which you can open with the scroll thing here. It's visible, which is what this eyeball is. I can also make it invisible, so let's look down on here. Invisible and invisible is pretty direct. In terms of 2D and UE elements, making something invisible also makes it non-selectable in most cases. There are some options to enable that, but by default behavior, you're not able to select something that's invisible in an options menu. And this clapper menu means that it is a scene file. So everything in Godot is a scene file. So this is a scene file of a new scene. I can also open up panel high, which is going to end up being panel 1. And you can see that this has its own entire scene tree beneath it. So let's go look towards here. And this is just going to be embedded in the scene tree in the main level. So you can see that, it has a number of 2D elements here, which you can see because they have that nice green as opposed to the red of the 3D ones. And if I look at the 2D version, why is it not showing this to me? Oh, because it's under a viewport. If I look at the 2D version and not have it under a viewport, you can see the panel that is created by all this label and answer stuff. I'm just going to undo that because I don't want to mess with my panel 1. So let's close that. Waiting for Godot. The reason this is taking so long is because I have my main level I'm working on open right now, level 40 working, and it is big. I have had multiple times to readjust the entire layout and a lot of scripts to make it load differently so that it still loads in Godot, because Godot has made some poor choices concerning maximum memory allocation in 3.5, which they fixed in 4.0, but we're stuck on 3.5.2 to work with the Lingo engine. So if I click on editable children here, we can see how this is just embedded here. So now let's open up the script. You'll see that all the variables that appear over here are declared as export variables with different typings on them, which is how this is how you would declare that the background material is a string. I would personally have done that as a material, so now let's save that, because now I can just load a material directly, but that's not the approach that Brenton went with, so whatever. This also works, and it means that I can load up any material that is in the base Lingo repo. So there's probably historical reasons for doing that. So you can see here, this is how he set the class image to be that custom little hi-hi, and the class name panel main is now something that you can extend from. So extend spatial means that this inherits spatial. So we can see that on a spatial node, now we can put a panel on anything that is a spatial node. So the script will tell it in particular that it's a hide, but we do need to put down a spatial node to put on the panel on it. Now, anything that extends panel main is going to have every variable and every function that this panel has, but we can change the bits. So when it gets to proxy panels and stuff, or actually I think my delayed panel, so this delayed panel is something I was making for someone else and it's still in this level, you can see that it extends panel main. So let's go back down to this guy. When we're getting a node, when we want to reference the variables of another node, we try to get that node. So in this case, we're doing var label is equal to viewpoint GUI panel label. So from this, from whenever it's running the script, so it might be panel high, it might be panel U, whatever, it's going to look for something that's a child of that called viewport, a child of that called GUI, a child of that called panel, and a child of that called label. And if I want to, from somewhere else, I want to get that as well, I don't have to run get node panel, get node, viewport GUI panel label. I can just put that in as one big string, because this all just acts like it's part of the same scene tree. So there's also some setters and getters here, which is controlling the text and the answer in the editor, which is what enables us to see what a panel is, in the editor. It doesn't always work because Godot. I had to solve a lot of it for Dave panel, and that continually really screwed with me when trying to get everything working. So unhandled input is also how you just say this panel, this node does something with input. So there are some functions that you can overwrite that normally do nothing in every node, in every script. But when you define them, they will actually do something. So unhandled input, ready. Ready is something that will run when this enters the scene tree. Set text and set answer are defined to appear in the set get. They're not special functions. And over here we have things that are connected to a signal. So you can see that from this little thing over here. So on visibility notifier screen entered. So if we go into the scene here, we can see that visibility notifier has that little signal node by it, and that means that something is connected to its signals. And indeed here we can see that on visibility notifier screen entered, he has named the function the same as the signal and as over here. So, we can connect signals in scenes by doing this. We can also connect them via script commands. And, if you're making custom scripts, it's better practice to define them in the scripts. It is better to define signal connections in these scripts because then it will work across a wide variety of circumstances, because you are not able to export your map as you would export a gaming Godot. So we have to do everything, either make unique in order to pack everything with a single map file that we can then send to other people, or the other alternative is that we would manually modify the scene file so that you could see everything, so that you have all your nodes and your assets accessed. All right, so that is your basic scripting. I'm not going to get into everything. By the way, this is just a shortcut, that $ for saying get node. There's a lot to go over here in terms of scripts and everything. And when you need to make a script unique, you would do it by going in the inspector node right down to the bottom, and here on this menu is where you click make unique. So that's how you would include custom scripts in with your map. So this has been your brief lightning fast overview into navigating Godot and how you access resources, make new ones, what stuff looks like. If you need to know more from this point, you are probably better served by watching Kiwi's 2-hour-long Q&A. I also have a number of map making tutorial videos which cover a variety of different topics in more detail.